Hi, so I've been away from the channel for a bit, and if you read the title of the video, you already know why. When we got to Ecuador, I was, as I thought, I was 100% healthy. No problems medically, hadn't been to a doctor in years, and we'd been here for about maybe 3 months, and all of a sudden I started having some symptoms. And so I Googled it, and Dr. Google said go see a real doctor. And so I went to go see Dr. Sonia in Vilcabamba. Dr. Sonia had me come in, didn't even do an exam, just listened to my symptoms, and told me immediately go and get lab tests. So I need you to get a full scope of lab tests for blood work. And then I also need you to get an x-ray in Loja. The nice thing is when you're getting any sort of tests in Ecuador, you don't have to make appointments, you don't have to do anything like that. You just take the doctor's note and you go in. So the very next day I went into the lab in Vilcabamba. I walked in first thing in the morning, handed them the paperwork, and they did a blood draw. From there we went straight into Loja, and I found one of the clinics. There's so many clinics everywhere. I went in, I handed the paperwork. Now mind you, I don't speak a lot of Spanish yet, and I certainly don't speak medical Spanish. But it was easy enough to just hand them the paperwork, and they said, yeah, and they got me back in. And so I had the x-ray, and then I had the blood test. Those results came in. So the first day I saw Dr. Sonia was on a Thursday. The blood test results came back in on Friday. And then Monday, I went for a follow-up with Dr. Sonia. Going back in for the follow-up, she said that she'd found some little things that concerned her. They weren't a big concern. She'd found 3 tiny little possible tumors in my uterus. And so with that, she said, you need to go see a gynecologist in Loja. And here's the guy you need to see. Don't put this off. And I said, oh, no. This is important. You know, I don't know what this is, but it's important. So I'll definitely do it right away. How do I do it? And she said, well, do you want me to make the appointment for you? Now, this is on a Monday. And I said, yes. And so she gets out her phone and she WhatsApps the other doctor. And this guy gets me in the very next day at 9 o'clock in the morning. So Thursday, I go in to see Dr. Sonia. Friday, I get the tests. Monday, I get the results from Dr. Sonia. Tuesday, I'm in to see the specialist in Loja. So really, really quick there. Once I went into the specialist, he did do a full exam. Now, that day I took my friend Sabeda with me because I thought, well, we might need some translation here. And I have no idea what I'm doing, where I'm going. So I took Sabeda so she could translate everything. After a quick exam, he got really worried. And he said that the 3 little dots that Dr. Sonia saw in the x-ray, those are nothing. I've got big problems. Probably have cancer. So I looked at him and I said, so what now? And he said, well, and of course this is all in Spanish. He wrote down 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. He crossed out 1, he crossed out 2, and he circled 3, as in stage 3 cancer. And this is now cervical cancer we're looking at. And I thought, oh my gosh, stage 3, like I'm gonna die. So he wanted me to go straight from there and get a PET scan, right in the office, same building. And luckily I hadn't eaten that day, so I could do it right away. And we could get the results back in 8 days. I asked him, I said, so can I go on vacation? Can I go scuba diving? And he goes, when? And I said, tomorrow. Because I thought, you know what, if I've only got 8 days until like I could be potentially facing like something horrible, like I might never dive again. And scuba diving it's a big part of my life. So he looked at me and said, well, yeah, go. Okay, so I went and got the PET scan, which was horrible. Like you have to drink all this nasty liquid. But I got the PET scan and went straight from there to the ticketing place, got tickets, and Tony and I headed off to Puerto Lopez.
Be the last one left when the lights go out. I'm down to one last breath, but I can't stop now. We all fall down sometimes, yeah, but that's just life. So cross my heart and hope to die. Baby, I was born to fight the fear when I feel like dying. I'm trying to fly high, but I'm not a pilot, can't deny it. There's some days I feel idiotic.
We came back from Puerto Lopez, and it was the day, right? The day that you have to find out. And so we went to the doctor, and he pulled up his computer screen, and he started to explain each of the stages via picture and translation. So he gets to stage number 1. And this is what it would look like, and this is what it would be, and this would be the treatment. Now, mind you, while I'm in Puerto Lopez, I've done a lot of research already. So I have done research on stage 3. But stage 3, remember, that was before I had the PET scan. So if he thought it was stage 3 before seeing anything, I'm thinking it might be stage 4. So I had done all of the research on what stage 4 looks like, what the treatment is, like what the prognosis is, like how am I going to live through this is basically what I was looking at. So he starts with this number 1 and yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, then he goes, and here we have 2. Okay, dude, just get to 4. Like, we both know it's 4. Like, let's just get to 4. And then he stopped and he said it was 2. And that's what I had. Wait, 2? Not 3, not 4? Yeah, 2. So Tony and I both, we high-fived each other, and I don't know that a doctor's ever seen anybody high-five when getting a cancer diagnosis, but I was ready for stage 4. So stage 2, that's awesome. So right from there, I go straight that afternoon, I go to see my specialist oncologist and my radiologist. Now, my oncologist doesn't speak any English. So we do a lot of translation through just a translate app. And honestly, I'd done so much research that I didn't have a whole lot of questions. Luckily, there are support groups on Facebook that pretty much you can learn anything you need to know by girls that are actually going through it at the same time. So when I met with the oncologist, I already knew what the treatment was. It's the same treatment that's universal, whether you get it done in Ecuador, you get it done in the United States, or in South Africa. Everybody's getting the exact same treatment. So the treatment for cervical cancer, stage 2, actually stage 2, 3, or 4, is 5 doses of chemo and 25 doses of radiation, all done in a 5-week period. Then after that, if that part is successful, they switch you to internal radiation and you get 4 rounds of internal. So that was the treatment. Radiation. So radiation isn't fun. I'm sure it's not fun no matter where you take it. It was easy though. So every day at 5 o'clock I had an appointment in Loja. And so we would drive to Loja, which is about 45 minutes away, and go to Solca. That's the cancer center that's nationwide. There's about 6 Solca centers in Ecuador. So we went to the one in Loja, and we had all of our radiation done. Now, the interesting thing was, one of my friends works in radiology in the United States, and his comment when I put up a picture of me and the radiation, here's the picture, his comment was, wow, I wish our equipment was that new in the United States. So while this is still a developing country, I will tell you the medical, it's on par. And it may not be as widespread. So like my internal radiation, we had to go to Cuenca, which is 6 hours away, because the Loja hospital hasn't had the internal for brachytherapy installed at that center. So there's only 3 places you can get that in the country. So some of it's a little bit inconvenient, but the equipment is modern. The care was amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about the care. So as I'm in my chemotherapy, I have a private nurse sitting in my room not 24/7, I was only in there for 6 hours, but she's in there with me the entire 6 hours I'm sitting getting chemo. So anything I need, there's no call button to push. I just look over and ask her. That to me was amazing, because I've had care in the United States and you can push a call button and you wait like maybe an hour until somebody comes and checks on you. You start pushing it frantically, maybe it'll be 10-15 minutes. This is a nurse actually sitting by your bedside. It was amazing. Now, I had a port installed. Funny thing, I guess that the state medical does not cover chemo ports unless you're actually terminal. So I had a port installed. So on my first day, she hadn't actually worked with ports. She works in a private clinic, and if you were terminal, you'd likely go to the Solca Hospital. So this was all at an outpatient private clinic. So she hadn't worked with ports. She couldn't really get it to work, so we did the first one with my vein. Second one, my vein. Like, it was just, she couldn't get the port done. So at that point, my oncologist doctor came in, and she said, well, don't worry about it. I'll put it in next time. So my oncologist would show up at the private clinic at 6:30 in the morning, get my port going, and then she'd go off to do her rounds. So the care was amazing. But the port, my poor nurse, which we had a really hard time communicating. She thought because I had a port, I was terminal. So on my fifth treatment, I told her, I said, all done, finito, tumor gone. And she said, no terminale? I go, no, all good, all bueno. She goes, no terminale. So she thought she'd been working with a terminal cancer patient the entire time. On my fourth week of chemo, I went to go have an MRI. Okay, I don't like MRIs at all. But anyway, I made it through the MRI. It was like an hour-long MRI in this tiny little tube, and yeah. Anyway, had the MRI, and when the results came back for the MRI, my oncologist was thrilled. She said there's absolutely no trace of the tumor. The tumor started out like the size of a chicken egg. It was huge, the size of a chicken egg. But by the 4th week, it was gone. There was no sign of tumor. So I was good to go for internal therapy. We went to Cuenca for internal therapy. Now, the Cuenca hospital is not as put together as the Loja hospital. They get a lot more patients through, so that's an issue. But it was like waiting in a line so that you could get a card, so then you could wait in a line so that you could make a payment on the appointment you'd already made, and hopefully you'd get done in time to go to the appointment that you'd already made. It was quite the waiting in line experience. So the first day we were there, we waited in lines and saw a couple doctors until we found out we needed a slide sent that we didn't know we needed. So we needed the original biopsy from the original test in the original doctor's office. Luckily in Ecuador, you can just send stuff via taxi. So we had a friend of ours in Loja run over to the clinic, pick up the slide, and take it to the shuttle. This is the same shuttle that we used to go to Cuenca. So he took it to the shuttle, they sent it up on the next shuttle, and then we picked it up at the shuttle office 4 hours later. So that was super handy. Once I got the appointments all scheduled up in Cuenca, then for about 4 weeks, I went up once a week and had an internal radiation done. And it wasn't convenient, it wasn't fun, but it got done. And the whole internal process was about $3,600 for those 4 sessions. And at the end of the day, as far as I know, like the whole thing worked. I won't actually get my results. I won't get my next PET scan until January, but I'm just figuring I'm done. Like, it's gone. If the tumor's gone, and that was at 4 weeks, I still had another full week of treatment after that, and then I had 4 weeks of internal radiation. So I can't imagine there's anything left alive in there. So that was cancer in Ecuador. Now at this point, some of you are wondering about cost. Now, we didn't have any insurance here. We hadn't signed up for any insurance in Ecuador. We didn't have any insurance in the United States. What we did have was a little bit of savings put away. So I knew I was going to be a cash only basis. My initial treatment with Dr. Sonia was $30. My initial blood work for a full workup, everything, was $70. My x-ray was $50. The initial exam with the specialist gynecologist, $40. My PET scan, which is where you drink all this like radiation fluid and like get x-rayed, it's like this pretty intense thing, that was $300. That was one of my more expensive tests. In total, we believe we spent right about $14,000 for the entire treatment. That's 25 radiation sessions, for internal, the chemotherapy. Like, it wasn't really a whole lot. Comparatively, in the United States, we would have spent $350,000. So while this was all out of our own pocket, it was all cash, we did get it done pretty quickly, and it was super affordable when considering what the alternative would be in the United States. So what's my takeaway on medical in Ecuador? Well, I tell you, it's amazing. It's really, really good. As an expat, it's easy to afford it, whether you have insurance or not. I will be getting insurance. Tony and I will be getting insurance now. I'm a little late, but whatever. But going forward, like, I couldn't be happier with where we chose to live. Now, if you've stayed with us this long, I would love for you to hit like, hit subscribe, and we are going to be putting out new videos a lot more frequently. And our next video is going to tell you what I did while I was down with the cancer. So kind of exciting stuff that happened because I'm not one that can stay still. So go ahead and follow us, and we will see you on the next one.